It's an honor and a pleasure to be interviewing you. Before we get started, I just have a few, I guess, legal things I have to ask you to
Okay.
say, and that's just state your full name, you spell it out, and just you can just make a small, brief statement saying it's okay for us to use this media footage.
Yes. Okay, my name is Muhammad Siddeeq. I am it's Muhammadsiddeeq. I am a willing participant in this interview, and this interview may be used in the manner for which the interviewer has chosen to use it.
So, I guess initially, one of the things we're doing with our project is basically trying to find out a little bit about your background, what maybe brought you to Islam. I know it's probably you can give me a long, twisted tale, but I know I can't get everything now, but inshallah, you would just share briefly why you became Muslim.
Well, I grew up in the hot jungle streets of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And though my parents were very beautiful and conducted a very honorable, dignified, respectable home, the street that I lived on was a street that offered many, many tests, trials, and challenges. And perhaps that's the way it was when I was a youngster. We lived in close neighborhoods. You can find almost all your African Americans living there. And so in the hot, challenging streets of Pittsburgh, I was tried by every temptation that comes down the pike, because that's what was going on there in Pittsburgh. However, I felt there was a vacuum in my life. My mother had me enrolled in the Trinity AME Church. Some of the most beautiful, wonderful people that I can ever remember, that I can recall, and I thank Allah for them. But despite their beauty and their sincerity and their love and concern that they had for us, there was something philosophically missing for me, and something that my spirit was calling for that wasn't being offered at the church. And so in my hunger for answers to questions that were not being answered, I ran across the brothers in Pittsburgh who were promoting the Islamic idea, the Nation of Islam idea. And I went to the temple because I was concerned. This is back in the 50s, around 56, 57. And I think the first time I heard it was 56 in Pittsburgh under the late minister or Imam Mustafa Hussein. Mustafa Hussein was the minister sent by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from Detroit, Michigan to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to oversee the temple there. And when I heard the teachings of Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was being administered by Imam Hussein, I immediately was captured by the clarity and the answers and things that they gave to the questions, and the fact that they opened up 4 questions and actually characterized the Bible as a problem for us. So anyhow, that was my initial beginning in getting involved in Islam, running from or looking for answers and leaving the church, but not because the people were bad. The people were the most beautiful people you ever want to meet. But I was looking for answers that no one there delved into, or no one seemed to know how to articulate.
Okay. Now, so you started out in the Nation of Islam.
Yes.
And it is my understanding that you developed a very good relationship with Imam Muhammad.
Yes.
How did that relationship come about?
Well, first I when I came to the Nation of Islam, I was worked in the school, and I worked with education, and I was successful in having oversaw the administration of a school that was over 1,500 students attending daily, and with that, we made a lot of success with our students and our teachers, and the word got around the country, and therefore I met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad first and worked with Minister Farakhan very closely.
What was that like?
Which what? Which one?
Both experiences.
Well, first, Minister Farakhan was a very beautiful experience. Minister Farakhan is a very good person, a very beautiful human being, very good person. I think he has made a few bad judgment calls, you know, but history will address that. And but as an individual, working with him was beautiful. It was really rewarding. He was very friendly and a good person to work with, and he looked out for all of us who worked with him and those who didn't work with him. He oversaw the staff and the school and things like that. So working with him was a learning experience. He was very into it. He would stay close to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Honorable Elijah Muhammad guided him, and he would quickly share the guidance from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with those of us. So that was the first thing. And then as a result of that, I was called to Chicago over and over and over to meet with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I was blessed to be there at his table and have conversations with him and ask him questions and get answers and guidance from him for the purpose of the school. And beyond that, I was able to work with his wife, Sister Clara Muhammad, who was involved in most of the time the science fairs, but she was involved with the school. And I was privileged to know her and work with her as she did her judging of the science fairs and things. And I was also blessed that when she took sick, we were on a tour. I was on a tour with Mr. Farakhan on the West Coast, and we got a call to cut our tour short. And we did, and we came back from over out in California and on the West Coast. We had been to California, Oregon, Washington, places like that. And we came back to Chicago, and I was blessed to come to her bedside while she was sick, right before she passed away. And I heard her request of Minister Farakhan. She said her request was, help my husband. That's what she said. Brother Minister, help my husband. Help my husband. So I was blessed to work with her and know her. And as a result of knowing her, I mean, then I knew all the officials out there, Abbas Russell, John Ali, Captain Raymond Sharif, Brother Sultan, and Assistant Supreme Captain Elijah Muhammad Jr. And then from there, when the Imam Muhammad came to New York prior to taking office, I heard him speak for the first time. And for the first time, I had my first nightmare in my life.
Okay.
I had my first nightmare in my life. Yeah, because I'm trying to hold on to an idea. And he's telling me, he said, if Master Farad Muhammad was the God to anybody, he was a God for the white man. That blew my mind. I mean, here we are thinking Master Farad Muhammad is our savior, our God, and all that. And he's telling me that Master Farad Muhammad is the God for the devil. So when
that was completely away from everything.
No, it was totally against everything. So I'm trying to hold on to what I knew. And then Imam is just blasting that stuff away, you know. And so I woke up in the middle of the night, drove my fist through the chest of drawers, you know. And my wife said she didn't know what was wrong with me, you know. And that's the day after I heard Imam Muhammad speak, Minister Muhammad, as we called him, Supreme Minister. And so when I heard him, and on top of that, Minister Farakhan asked me to get the tape, because he spoke in New York City. This is before he became head of the community. He came to New York months before that, before the passing of his father. His father was still alive. And Minister Farakhan instructed me to get the tape and transcribe the tape. So now I'm going over and over and over, listening to these things that this man is saying, which is totally adverse to everything that we had learned and everything we knew. And so, but it captured me. It captured me. I was mesmerized. Never heard no one speak like that. Never heard no one speak like that, you know? And so then after he had spoke, then he was back in Chicago and he was giving different interviews and different things, and there was all kinds of rumors out there that he's trying to take over and all of that. And then when we got near Savior's Day that year, this is 75 now, I was in the late part of 74 when we first met him. But in 75, got near Savior's Day, he sent for all the ministers to come and witness for themselves the condition of his father. He wanted them to see for themselves. And everyone went out there, all the ministers went, but Minister Farakhan. Minister Farakhan was instructed by Valora Najib, don't come. She said, don't come. She said, because when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gets well, he gonna bust all of them. All them ministers who were busy supporting Wallace, you know, and listening to Wallace. And so Minister Farakhan was caught between a rock and a hard place, because Valora Najib was the spokesperson for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, being his chief secretary. And she, what basically she said went. And so he hesitated in going, and finally he waited to almost the day before Savior's Day to go. And when he did go, he took his son Joshua, I think, with him, and maybe Wallace, his other son, who became Mustafa, and they went to Chicago in preparation for the Savior's Day, and he did go visit the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he did witness the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's declining health circumstance for himself. And so when we arrived, first of all, we were back in New York City. We were back in New York City when the word came that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had passed. Okay, this is the day before Savior's Day. And we got the word that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had passed away. And when the NBC, ABC, CBS, and all of the big news networks were tearing down the door of the temple in New York City, number 7, when they came and wanted to interview, Minister Farakhan was gone. Everyone was gone but me and Ishmael Shamsuddin, who was the secretary, and Ishmael said, you handle it. Because I was like an assistant to Minister Farakhan, and Ishmael was the secretary, and we were the 2 highest officials in the city. Ishmael wasn't going to handle it, so they came to me. And when they came to me and asked me about the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I laughed at them. I told them, I said, Honorable Elijah Muhammad is alive and well. They said, oh no, Brother Clark, this is Gil Noble, who had the program Like It Is out of New York City. He said, oh no, Brother Clark, we got it right here on AP, UPI, and all them. He said, they sent this out saying that Elijah Muhammad has passed. And I told him, I said, Brother Gil, I said, the devil does that every year around this time. They start some stuff about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passing his health and stuff like that. I said, trust me, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is alive and well. Well, that threw him for a loop, and I guess it threw everyone for a loop, because we proceeded up into the building and went on talking to our teachers and told them, hold fast to this belief. Don't let no one shake you. And so we then left the temple and headed for the airport and boarded those Eastern Airline jet planes that we had reserved, and headed for Chicago. Now, when we got to Chicago, when our planes landed, I was on the first plane, and so Brother Larry, who is assistant to Minister Farakhan now, and was also assistant to him then, he was the first one on the plane to greet us at the airport. And he came on the plane, took the microphone from the stewardess, asked her if he could speak. And first he called me aside. And when he called me aside, he told me, he said, Brother Director Clark, he said, look, you got to. He said, I want you, don't show no emotions. He said, but Honorable Elijah Muhammad has passed away. Well, that floored me. You know, I mean, I didn't show no emotion. I said, yes, sir. So he said, we got to be strong. He said, and we got to, work together on this. So then he made the announcement, he took the PA system and made announcements to everyone on the plane, went to the next plane, did the same thing. I think we had about 3 planes. And he announced to all of them and told them that Honorable Elijah Muhammad had passed away. And we should show no emotion, just keep stiff upper lip, okay? So as the MGT, all the sisters had on their white, what we call holy garments. And they had their white garments on, and as we walked through the airport, all you could hear is the swishing of their garments. Not a word. It was eerie. It was eerie. Not one word was being spoken by anyone. And people were standing looking because the news had gotten out that he had passed. And also the news was out that we were having this major convention in Chicago. And so, people were just basically checking to see our reaction. And we had none. So anyhow, that initiated my effort into what was called, or my involvement into the second resurrection, because we went from there, and of course the Honorable W.D. Muhammad, who was then called under the title that we had for him, the Supreme Minister, he then took charge at our desire and request and support for it. And so he began teaching us and evolving us into where we are right now. So that sort of sets the stage. For me, I then went down to Tallahassee, Florida to become the imam, and he was invited down because I was on the faculty at Florida State University. And when being on the faculty down there, I was able to facilitate an honorarium and everything like that for him. So he came and spoke to us in Tallahassee, Florida. And that's where I first met him. And personally, I saw him, of course, when he came.
Again, what year was this?
This was in the year 1978 or 9.
And you started with the Nation of Islam in what year?
1956.
So we 20 years removed from the scene.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
You're a young man in Islam now.
Yeah, well, Allahu Akbar. I would like to believe that. I would like to believe that, yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to back up a little bit because you've given us a lot of foundation about not just yourself, but basically your story is probably synonymous to a lot of the men and women of your age,
yes,
who are now practicing Islam in America, who are African American.
Yes.
Did you ever think you'd be at this point from where you started?
Never could even dream or visualize this point.
What does it feel like to not only see yourself grow to the development where you are now, but to see how you and others before you have influenced our generation today?
Well, first, it's a great honor, and it's a big struggle, and it's a big challenge, and it's not easy because there's all kinds of banana peels on the road, you can be moving down the road and slip, because I've seen people that I'd never dreamed would walk away or would fall away or get lost in confusion. And this time, it just blew my mind. People that you see, you think they're rocks. Even with my relationship with Minister Farakhan and my friend Brother Larry, I love them tremendously, and they've been my friends for life, and I'll always love them and respect them. But at that time, I felt quite let down and disappointed because it was my understanding from all that we learned in the first experience that if a new leader comes on the scene, or if we got busted, or whatever the case was, we would salute and keep on going and follow the new leader, not anticipating that leadership at the level of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're thinking it like along the level where Malcolm failed his test. We felt that he failed his test because he was tried by his leader, and all he had to do was accept his penalty. He spoke out of turn. He was instructed not to speak. He went against that. Then when he spoke, he jeopardized the lives and the safety of innocent members of the community who may have loved and respected our president, late President John F. Kennedy. And to make a sort of flippant remark, which could be true, but was not wise, set the stage for a possible attack on innocent people. And so we're thinking that Malcolm having made that mistake, there was a lot of talk, especially coming from the level of the ministers, that you don't want to be a hypocrite. You don't want to go the way of the hypocrite. And they called Malcolm the big hypocrite. And you don't want to go the way of the big hypocrite, you know.
Now I got a question for you on
Yes.
that, because you were there,
Yes,
and media presents one
yes,
position. This is their proposal,
yes,
and the truth has its proposal, which sometimes doesn't come to light. And I'm more interested in getting a better understanding of. I wasn't there, so this is like the first time I've heard the undertones of what you're speaking about with that situation. It's not saying that, I'm not saying that you're saying Malcolm was wrong, but what you are saying is he should have not addressed the position in the way that he should have at that time.
Malcolm, may God forgive him his sins and bless him for all the good that he did. He was a good brother, but he made some serious mistakes.
Serious like what? Because and I want to. I'm asking this not to persecute anyone, but
I understand.
this interview is about the truth, and our story sometimes it doesn't get out.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and Malcolm X is like one of the first names you hear when you hear Muslim and being black.
and let me first, before I say this and say the things that I'm saying, I want to be clear. I was not one of the ones who was right up in the presence, physical presence of Malcolm, never. But I worked with all of his assistants, people who walked with him, talked with him daily, and have talked with all of them. You know, both women and men who know Malcolm intimately. And then I was in the community under the same officials he was under, and I heard the rumbling, and I heard the different comments that have been made over the years as to Malcolm, and the thing that is said about Malcolm. When you first of all, you have to understand how the Nation of Islam was regimented and how it was set up. The Nation of Islam was set up where you had three major officials over the community. One was called the minister, the other was called the captain, and the other was called the secretary. The minister dealt with the teaching of the ideals and philosophy of Islam. The captain was the man who trained and prepared the men to learn how for self-defense and to maintain their homes and watch over their families and their wives and children. And the secretary was the one who did most of the economics and making sure that the bills were paid and the people were paid, and the monies that we had, we invested in the businesses and things like that, and that was the secretary's job. And of course, along with that was a sister captain who worked side by side with the brother captain who watched over the women. Where there was a school, there was a director of education, and he was included in that mix. So once you understand how that went, now anytime somebody spoke out of turn, that person was normally penalized for 30, 60 to 90 days. If you broke the law, like had adultery, fornication, something like that, with a sister, you'd be put out of the temple for what's called 1 to 5. 1 year to 5 years, meaning depending on how well you rehabilitate yourself for the first year, you're out. And if you don't, then you can stay out as long as 5 years. And nobody wanted to be put out of or excommunicated from the temple. Because once you get involved in the temple, I mean, we were living in a special kind of situation in Islam. And once you became acclimated to that, then to be removed from that forcefully or any other kind of way was really devastating. Where friends that you had could no longer speak to you, your parents, if they were still in, they couldn't speak to you. And so anyhow, but put it that way, so I'm saying, the point I'm making is there were a set of rules, and those rules were enforced by the officials. And the captain had to enforce, and the minister was there, and they coordinated their efforts in making sure that these rules were followed and enforced. So I'm saying, so Malcolm enforced these rules on others. That's where I'm coming from. Malcolm is not like this, oh, this is brand new to Malcolm. Malcolm was a minister. Being a minister in a city like New York, number 7, look, New York, and when we had an FOI meeting, we had thousands of people at the FOI meeting. And some of these you hear people talking about, I've been in the nation, I was in the Nation of Islam, they come from Yucca Gulch somewhere, you know, and they had 3 or 4 people that come out on a Saturday. They got a little taste of it, but they didn't get the flavor and the taste that we got in New York City. New York City, we could live, sometimes I would go for 30, 60, 90 days and not have to deal with anyone outside of the Islamic community. I could get my gas at our station, I could do my shopping at our market, I could go to the dentist with our dentist, I could go to the doctor with our doctor, I could go to the garage and get my car fixed at our place where we had, I could get my food through our food pantry. And so, I mean, all the stuff, I mean, I had my children getting educated going to the school, was our school. So I could spend a whole month, 2 months, 3 months, and really not have to associate outside of the community in New York. Now, that's not true in the smaller cities because they did not have those kind of support systems in place. But New York was very advanced and very sophisticated. So I'm saying that to say that Malcolm was a minister in the city. He wasn't just a good speaker. Now, see, people know Malcolm because he could speak. But his job as a minister was not only speaking, his job as a minister was to support the captain and the secretary and all those and everyone in the enforcement of the law. So the minister, anytime someone was put out, it came before the minister as well as the captain. The captain then would make a decision, and that person was gone. And normally they always, you know, confided with each other before the move was made. So I'm saying this was no secret to Malcolm. It was no secret to Malcolm was how the chain of command went. It was no secret to Malcolm that when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave a command, it had to be followed. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, at the day that JFK was assassinated, our president, former President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we had a meeting scheduled down in Manhattan Center. At the time I was in Pittsburgh, you know, or between Pittsburgh and Washington, you know, because that's where I was at that time. And but the meeting was scheduled at Manhattan Center, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has sent notification around for us, if there are any programs, activities, or anything scheduled, canceled. And he said no one is to make any comment. No one is to make any comment on the circumstances of the assassination of the president. And when a statement would be made, he would make it. And so this captain, they shut down the meeting down at Manhattan Center, but the reporters had come out. Watch your money there. Excuse me. So when Malcolm got the announcement and they canceled the meeting. And in canceling the meeting, there was a reporter that was lingering around. And I think the captain had told Malcolm that, you know, everyone is basically gone on this one reporter. He's going to have him removed. And Malcolm said, "Now bring him up here," according to what's been told to me. I'll talk to him. Well, that was not what he was supposed to do. So he took that shot, that chance, and when the reporter came up, of course he asked Malcolm about the situation with the president, and that's when Malcolm made according to the record, that remarked that about the president case of the chickens coming home to roost. And then that went viral, when it went all over the country, all over the world. Now, that created a big dilemma for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. See, Honorable Elijah Muhammad loved Malcolm. He loves Malcolm, even though many people were jealous of Malcolm, and many people in the nation didn't like Malcolm. It's just no different than it is today. There are people who just can't accept somebody who has a superior mental grasp than themselves. And so Malcolm there was a lot of envy and jealousy around Malcolm. So they envied Malcolm and were jealous over Malcolm, but even though they were envy and jealous over Malcolm, they respected him and stayed away from him as long as Honorable Elijah Muhammad had his arms around him. As long as he had his arms around him, that's the way it went. But Malcolm knew then, when he made that statement, he was treading on bad ground. He had no business doing that. But then when he made the statement, and said that it's a case of the chickens coming home to roost, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad punished him for 90 days in Class C, he should have just saluted and said, yes, sir, and sat down for 90 days. But see, this is sad, and this is why I had a little problem with Minister Farakhan with the death of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because I heard this story 66 trillion times over from Minister Farakhan. And I got my strength and training from him. He taught me, and he told me, and we talked this over and over 1,000 times. Malcolm should have submitted. And so I just assumed with that kind of teaching that he would, I'm talking about Minister Farakhan, being that we were criticizing Malcolm, that if or when any challenge like that would ever knock on his door, he would submit.
You're referring to after Honorable Elijah Muhammad died,
Yes.
and then there was a new leader.
Yes, I'm thinking that I'm reflecting on the mistake that Malcolm made.
Right.
And the fact that we talked about it over and over and over. Mr. Farakhan would come and teach us in classes. We would go and travel around the country, and he would make tremendous, excellent speeches. And he did a wonderful job spreading the teaching of Islam to the people out there in Harlem and throughout the country. But when Malcolm did not bow, and mainly people start coming to him, Percy Sutton and them, what is it, Ruby Dee's husband,
Ozzie Davis.
Ozzie Davis, and those different guys came to Malcolm and were telling him, "Oh, Malcolm, it is you, man. You're the one who made these people. Malcolm, you're the one." See, they were mesmerized by Malcolm, and Malcolm was an excellent orator, excellent speaker, and he had a good grasp on the spirit of what our people were looking for in that period of time. I mean, he was right on time. And so when these people came to him and kept telling him, you don't have to sit down for no 90 days. Who is this man? After all, you're the one that's making all this. And he was. I mean, but you don't want to forget that you had absolutely nothing to say, Malcolm, until Allah blessed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to give you something to say and to give you direction. Now, you certainly were able to articulate it better because of your unique charisma and way of speaking. And so you attracted more people and younger people and larger crowds and things like that. But the point I'm making is he knew he was on uncharted waters. He knew he was wrong. He should not have gone against what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him. And when he did go against what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him, he should have accepted the punishment, which was a 90-day punishment, which is no more than what he has put on other people himself. And he should have accepted. Now this same pendulum swung again, you know, and it swung with the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I'm thinking that Minister Farakhan, my dear friend and mentor, was not going to get caught up in this. In fact, I wrote a letter. I mean, when Captain, Brother Captain Elijah Muhammad Jr. came to New York City and was signifying that Minister Farakhan had not accepted to follow new leadership. And I wrote a letter defending him and telling Elijah Muhammad Jr. that all of us had accepted it, and that he, in so many words, that he had no right to accuse Minister Farakhan like that. And then I would come out to the meetings on Wednesdays and Fridays, and Minister Farakhan would be teaching on Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And one day we were going to see a movie, Parallax View, down on 59th Street in New York City. And as we were riding, I told him, I said, Brother Minister, can I say something to you? He said, yeah. I said, Brother Minister, I said, you come out every Wednesday and Friday. I said, you keep trying to tell the brothers and sisters, you got to accept the Supreme Minister, you got to accept. I said, Brother Minister, I said, it sounds like you haven't accepted it. I thought that's my duty as a friend to say it. And that's how I said it to him. I didn't say I wasn't trying to be flippant, I wasn't trying to be smart, I wasn't trying to hurt him. I said it in the privacy of his car with me and him. I'm driving, he's sitting in the driver's seat. He has this burnt orange Lincoln town car, white roof, you know. And when I said that, he said to me, he said, Brother Director, how could you say such a thing to me? He said, you're my friend, how could you say that? I said, well, Brother Minister, I'm just saying that by you keep saying it over and over. I said, it sounds that way. I said, I'm not saying that's the way. But he was hurt, and I didn't mean to hurt him. I wasn't trying to hurt him. That wasn't my intent at all. I called myself, I was always honest with him. I wasn't a yes man for him. And nor was I a show off. I wouldn't, like if I saw something, I wouldn't try in the presence of other people look like I'm correcting him to try and get some bully points or whatever you call them, you know. I would find a quiet time or first time where it was he and I, or me, him, and Larry. We had very candid kind of conversations and relationships. But when I said that to him, I saw that he was hurt by that, and I didn't carry it no further. I left that alone. But he got the message what I was saying, you know. But then they had an invitation right on the heels of that. The really Honorable Imam Muhammad had the invitation to go over to Angola. I think it was Angola, where Idi Amin was the former leader. And they went over there for this Africa of unity, some kind of united people. And Idi Amin made some comments about the delegation from America that came to that conference. And he was saying that they need to go back home in America because Queen Mother Moore, who was then a figure to reckon with in the activist movement of black nationalists and all like that in Harlem, she had come over there. Mr. Farakhan had come over there. I think some of the other people from different groups had come over there. And Idi Amin told them they needed to all go back home and get together and choose one leader to represent the voice of America, you know, as opposed to all of them coming over with different agendas, you know. Anyhow, while he was over there, they called me. Him and Larry was there too, I believe. Anyhow, they called me, and then they had some. I could hear some disgruntledness in the tone of the conversation, you know. Not disrespectful, but I mean, I could hear. I didn't hear total commitment like we had with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's what I didn't hear.
You knew the difference.
I knew the difference, you know. And it wasn't that they were outwardly rebelling, but I could hear that there wasn't the same devotion, dedication, unquestionable allegiance. It wasn't there. But I was, you know, not because of anything other than Imam Muhammad he reached past my political correctness or all that. I heard a voice crying into my soul from his words. I heard sincerity. I heard clarity. I heard a direction. I heard God speaking through this man, you know. And I mean, I wasn't playing. There wasn't no thing where I'm going to be loyal to him because I'm a good guy. Because a lot of people were loyal because they were good guys. I was loyal because I felt that God had touched this man's soul, and he was able to bring that kind of thinking to the masses of the people. And when he did, it just rocked our souls and brought us alive. And I didn't hear that coming from two brothers who I love dearly, Minister Farakhan and my brother Larry, who was then called Kareem Abdul-Aziz, because the Imam had given him a name, and later gave Minister Farakhan the name Minister Louis Halim Farakhan. I think that was it. Yeah, gave me the name Halim, you know. But anyhow, I didn't hear that, and when I heard the call that I got, it was sort of a call questioning the instructions and the direction the leader was taking us in. In other words, I understand the Supreme Minister gave a big speech the other day. Yes, and what did he say? You know, that kind. I mean, it just didn't have the ring like the old ring when Honorable Elijah Muhammad spoke. It wasn't no what did he say? It's the Holy Apostle spoke. Allahu Akbar. You know, I like a copy. You know, I didn't hear that. But anyhow, but still, I loved them and they loved me. You know, but when they got back, then I could see that they had some plans that were not in accord with where I was willing to go or was thinking about going. And so that's where I start sensing that we were on two different paths, and that what they were looking forward to and moving towards was not where I was trying to go or willing to go, you know. Okay.
Okay, wow, that's a serious history lesson. Now, did you teach history in school, or you mentioned you were on the faculty at Florida State?
I taught, ironically, science and math. Now, math was not my subject, but the level of math that I taught, I learned math because math wasn't my subject, and I buried it, and I could teach it very well because I found tricks and methods and strategies for teaching math. And then I taught that to freshmen and athletes at Florida State University, athletes, yes.
Now, you mentioned also...
and also high school students who were coming into the program.
You mentioned there being sort of, I guess you could say, an insincerity when Imam Muhammad, I guess, began to take the reins over those who were following the Nation of Islam, and there wasn't the same type of motivation or sincerity in following him.
From some, not all. From some, very few, at first. Mainly, I sensed it coming. I didn't feel. I felt a hesitancy from the minister. I felt a hesitancy, and the reason why I was sensitive to it because I was very close to the minister, and we were very frank and open with each other, you know. And when I saw that that they were not on the same path or had not arrived at the same kind of commitment, that I had, though they were not rebelling, openly rebelling, but I could see there was reluctance, hesitancy, and it created a breach. And down the line, Minister Farakhan approached the imam and told him that he felt that he would be more effective teaching the African American people. He felt that the imam's approach and way he was teaching was a little sophisticated, a little high for the average brother or sister who, be careful, you're gonna fall. I don't want to see that. Yeah, and I can understand where it's coming from. And when you thought about it, I said, well, okay, maybe that might be true, because the imam was dealing with a lot of symbolism when he first came into office.
I mean, symbolism. I mean, can you break that down for those of us who
Yes.
might not be as,
Yes.
knowledgeable?
Well, we were basically Bible people. The Nation of Islam, though we advocated Islam, we were Bible people. And the Bible, the language of the Bible was purely symbolic language. Mm-hmm. Metaphors, similes, hyperboles, and all of the language that was alluding to things and talking about one thing by pointing at another thing. And so the imam was breaking those things down and showing us a message that was there that the typical common eye was not picking up on, because it's literal acceptance of religious theology without any will in your spirit to question it, mainly because we were discouraged as Christians to question it. And even though we called ourselves moving into Islam, we've carried that same kind of thinking into our Islamic practice. We just sort of moved in from Christian values to Islamic values, but maintained the same kind of superficial approach to religion. And he was trying to show us that if we were going to grow and develop and progress, we had to get past the symbolic and literal meanings that were on the page and look deep into what had been written, so that we could garner and gain from that the deep message that God has there in the Bible as well as the Quran. And he was showing us how the Quran is a book that comes to correct the other books. All the books is called Kutubun Qayyimah, the book that corrects, the corrected books. And so and he said that you won't ever understand the Quran if you want thoroughly understand the Quran, put it that way, if you don't realize what the Quran is addressing. The Quran is addressing problems and errors that were passed on through misreading and misunderstanding, or not digging deep enough into many of the allegorical, metaphorical, symbolical statements in Christian scripture and Christian writings. And so these are the things that he went after. And so I'm saying, with that, in that context, Minister Farakhan had a point, though I didn't feel it was beyond the possibility or the capacity of African Americans to reach for. And anyhow, but he approached Imam Muhammad, asking him would he respectfully allow him to take leave of his ministerialship as it has existed now, because he felt he could be more effective if he were given the freedom and the right to go ahead and reach out for the people in a different way, in a way that he felt could reach them, which he had in his mind, obviously, the way that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had done it, in the strategy and the psychology that came out from the teachings of the Nation of Islam. Mm-hmm. So the Honorable Imam Muhammad, he never hesitated. He said, sure, he supported me. He said, if that's what you want to do, I'll support you in that. He said, I'm not going to hold you to that. He said, I'll support you if you want to go, yes. And so he supported him. And so Mr. Farakhan began because he was basically set up on the west side of Chicago, having been transferred out of from New York. And see, it's understood. A lot of people think that, oh, Imam Muhammad just decided to take the minister out of New York. But Imam Muhammad told me personally, he said it wasn't his decision. He said he never made that decision to take the minister out. He said many of those brothers and sisters who worked under him came to him and requested that. And some of them presented different reasons. And one of the reasons they presented was they felt Mr. Farrakhan would be killed if he's left in New York City. And that made a lot of sense because they had already accused Minister Farrakhan of stealing and taking money and doing all kinds of stuff. And that wasn't the kind of man he was. He wasn't that kind of man. See, like, if we're going to tell the story, tell it fairly. Tell it fairly. You don't have to add nothing to it. Minister Farakhan in his ministry in the Nation of Islam, and I was there as a witness, he was, in my opinion, a very honest, sincere, dedicated follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he was not wheeling and dealing, taking money and stealing money. The monies that he spent basically were the monies that were allotted to him or he gained or earned doing various speeches with honorariums, but he was not one stealing money, which he was accused of after the death of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He did not steal anything, that I know of, and I worked close with him. He was very dedicated and very sincere and very committed, and he did a very commendable job in New York. So let's be fair about this thing, cut the cake fairly. And he was very, very dedicated to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The only thing I had a problem with was at the changeover, I just felt let down. I felt let down. Now, it's unfair for me to say he did something wrong, but I got to tell you how I felt. I felt let down. I felt that he let me down. No, go ahead.
I want to not move away from that, but I do want to, because you and I, we had a discussion before, and I want to kind of lead into that. But
Okay.
before I do, I'm new to Islam. I've been practicing for 15 years.
Okay.
So I did not come into the religion because my parents were Muslim. I came into it because I just started reading one day, and alhamdulillah, this is what I found.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yeah. But you have touched a lot of people in this world, both in the religion and outside of the religion, and you're a very modest and humble brother. But can you just kind of give us an idea of some of the people you've done business with, you connected with outside and inside of the Nation of Islam, who other people may know of, but not maybe so familiar with who you are?
Well, I mean, I've been blessed in the presence of people like Minister Farakhan and traveling with him to be in the company of very prestigious and well-known people, But I mean, it had nothing to do with me, personally. It had nothing to do with me. I mean, my working with Minister Farakhan was one great blessing. Then I worked with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I thought that was a triple duper blessing, And of course, all the high officials I never knew Malcolm personally, though I was in the environment while Malcolm was alive, But I didn't have that kind of a relationship as Minister Farakhan and them did with him. But then Muhammad Ali, of course, I was blessed to not only meet him, but to be able to strike up a strong friendship with him and travel with him on a number of occasions and be in his presence on other occasions, which was very honoring for me. And of course, being with Minister Farakhan, I was able to meet people like Aretha Franklin and Jesse Jackson, who I would have never known. Of course, Al Sharpton was just he just a young brother in New York City who was trying to find out his own direction there. So of course we all met in Mamu Baraka, Leroy Jones and all of them, and Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni, all of those, and of course Angela Davis, Huey Newton and them. I didn't meet Huey, but I was on the trip to Oakland where Mr. Farakhan did meet with him and the Black Panther leadership, And then also Nancy Wilson, of course, and Brock Peters. Been to Brock Peters' home, and Minister Farakhan was asked to play the role of Malcolm, I think, under a group of people that Brock Peters was associated with. And he and we had a big, respectful disagreement over whether he should or should not play that role, and I insisted that he not play that role. I told him the day you play that role is the day that you and your legacy dies, And all you'll be known for the guy who played Malcolm, But anyhow, so much for that. Also, of course, we met Nina Simone, and a lot of the so-called who's who in music, just when we had Black Family Days and different things like that, and concerts, Gloria Lynn, when we had a concert with Gloria Lynn, we had to go close the contract and go down to her apartment and get the signature from her manager and everything, and her. And then, of course, I was blessed by knowing Minister Farakhan. He took me with him to see Don Shirley. Don Shirley had an apartment at Carnegie Hall. He's a noted pianist and cellist, an excellent, outstanding musician. And he then, when Leontine Price did a concert, she had a after party, and she invited Minister Farakhan, and he, of course, I was with him, took me with him, and we went to Leontine's party, and of course, the person who was there in the audience at her concert at Carnegie Hall was Leontine Price, Marion Anderson. And so now, and Boatwright McHenry, I think his name was, So I met them, and then also I'm friends to this day with Armena Hummings, and she is, I'm trying to think what is her last name then. But anyhow, her name is engraved in the Steinway piano now. They have her name. That's the kind of pianist she is, and her and I are still friends. In fact, her son attended the University of Islam, and he's a very outstanding violist as well as conductor,
Wow.
And of course, with Mike Tyson, I worked with Mike Tyson, and I was in the presence of almost everybody. I could name, James Brown and all of Dr. Martin Luther King's children, both Martin Jr. and Dexter, and Jesse Jackson's children, Jesse and I forget the other boy's name, Jonathan. Met with them, and of course Elijah One, the basketball player, and, Emmett Smith, the football player, and of course my dear friend, football player in Pittsburgh, Mal Blunt, we're good friends of his. And the list goes on and on and on. I could, if I just sit down, I could probably fill aside this building of celebrities, And I say this, I said, I probably have done more interviews than any person in our community, and probably they'll have to do a whole lot to even catch. Reason why I say that, and I say it humbly and respectfully, but when Mike Tyson was released from prison, and I was his spiritual advisor, I mean, I was interviewed by every press. Look, I was interviewed by people from China, Japan, Australia, France, every country on almost on this planet Earth. I mean, literally hundreds of of news outlets. From all over the world. All over the world. From Dubai, Saudi Arabia. I've had lunch with Prince Bandar. You know, who came and bought, I don't know what, 3 or 4 of them AWACS out of his breast pocket. They cost what, $1 billion a piece or something like that. I've had lunch with him. I mean, but it's humbling. Because I'm just a little brother. I don't have anything big to offer. And but my point is, I feel what's painful about these things that I'm saying now is, if you weren't asking this question, it wouldn't get out. But I mean, I can't get a 2-inch or a half-inch article in the Muslim Journal. If I send $100 bill with it, I can't get nothing in the Muslim Journal.
What does that say about the state of where Islam is now in America? And I don't want to say just within the African American community, because we are American.
I would say, I wouldn't equate it, I would not use the term where Islam is. I would say where the Muslim community who have taken on the responsibility of advancing Islam, where they are right now. I think if we don't make a mid-course correction, we're going to do almost the same thing that happened in the time of, according to the biblical scriptures, when the children of Israel came out of Egypt. They had to walk around and wait for them cats to die out before you get anything done, because they were so locked and clouded with yesterday, And I'm saying that should not be. And I understand why. I've been critical of the Muslim Journal and the editor. But my criticism is in hopes of sparking or lighting a light in their soul and see what we're trying to get them to do. We got groups in our community writing about what's going on in Syria, what went on with Libya, Egypt.
What they call they call it the Middle Eastern Spring.
Yeah. So they're all into this. I don't know why I can't call it. Yeah, but was it Arab Spring?
It's Arab Summer.
Arab Spring, Summer, whatever it is. But they're all into that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But where I find a problem is when we, as a community, have a duty to try and advance our little fledgling community forward. Why do we feel that these international giants need our voice to the exclusion of letting our voice be heard within our community? No one wants to speak out against the injustices in our community, but we got a brother who was former over the imams. He can't find it in his soul to address the inequities and justice when he stood as the convener of the imam. He couldn't find it in his soul to find problems with the way he was conducting and the way they were conducting their affairs. But now he's writing all about radical Islam and it being a oxymoron. Is he wrong? No, I think he's right. The article's very good. I think the article's very good. But the question is, what impact would they have? And how can you find such bold, courageous strength to write on that level and can't find it within your soul to write anything. I mean, I'm talking about anything. You could not find that, like, some inequities and injustices taking place in this community that are horrible. That are horrible. And they don't have the courage to write on them. None of them. Here's a paper. Every week, we've got at least 6 NPAs, National Press Association, whatever, I think that's what it's called, where you buy these articles. We don't need to buy a single article. If you would tap the resources you have, but you don't want the kind of intellect that others bring. They want a newspaper that is like a little newsletter. It's not a newsletter. It's a newspaper. And you want it to be a national newspaper, and you want it to grow, and you want it to develop, and you want it to reach people and influence. But yeah, how do we do that? How do we do that? You know, I noticed there was one brother who was writing on an article, writing a series of articles. I've been watching for the continuation of his article for the last 3 weeks. I don't know what happened. You know, it just fell out. He just fell off the radar screen. I'm gonna pick up the phone and call him and say, brother, what happened? You know, did they pull the plug on you like they pulled the plug on me? You know. So anyhow, all I'm saying is, so the point is, now it's not the problem with Islam in the United States. It's the problem with those of us who are the custodians, who don't have the courage to speak a word directly to the truth, no matter what. Now, I'm no angel. I'm not sitting here speaking like the Lamb without spot or blemish. It's probably easy. People can criticize me, and I mean, look, when they do, and they do, I don't run from it, and then you become an enemy on my enemy. I weigh it. I said, what is this person saying? And I asked my wife, what do you think? And she'll give me an honest answer. And then I really tried to make some changes in my character or the way I approach things. But it's not happening here. So these are some of the concerns that I'm concerned with in terms of what we are not doing. And if we don't come alive, like, we don't come alive soon, that paper's gone. Papers are going anyhow.
Right. Media is changing.
Papers are going. And you're not going to get nobody to send you money to buy a paper online. They're not going to switch from, the subscriptions are down already. And I mean, it's a sad testimony when, if we just had the courage to sit down and had the will to listen to people who you don't necessarily like or agree with, we could go somewhere. But we're a kind of people that if you criticize me, you're my enemy. I can't even get an answer from the paper. I can't. My daughter, who was the wife of Imam Muhammad, she wrote a request on an article something we were trying to do with the paper. They never even gave her a courtesy call back. That's not the way you do business. Not because she was the wife of the Imam. That shouldn't even come into play. It should come into play if any individual, no matter who that person is, writes, you should take time to at least say, at this time we're not able to publish your article. That doesn't take much. That shows a level of intellectual development that we need to practice. But they got a scarlet letter tied around my neck as far as trying to get anything.
Why do you think that is? I mean,
because I know why it is. Because I am not predictable. that's why it is. Because I'm not predictable. In other words, I'm not going to disrespect you, but I'm going to give you an answer. I'm not going to be politically correct. I'm going to say as best as I can what is the truth. Just like with Minister Farakhan, I'm not going to hesitate to say that he was a good person. Everyone else wants to throw stone out. Throw no stone at him.
Well, incidentally, I interviewed another brother. I don't know if you know A.K. Sabir, who is a resident of Atlanta Masjid.
The photographer?
No, he used to do. He was in Philly for a while. Sold a lot of Muslim journals I should say Muhammad Speaks at that time, and He's a entrepreneur here in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he had shared with me at one point in time, he briefly lived across the street from Mr. Farakhan when he had moved, I think, to Boston.
Okay.
And those were his exact words. So I'm not here to correct a wrongness of or that someone was slighted. I just want the truth. And alhamdulillah, you know, a lot of what has inspired me to really talk to, you know, brothers such as yourself is there are stories out there that we don't know about that are really instrumental to us moving forward. And I mention that because you had said something about symbolism, and we may not get to address it here as thoroughly as I know you could, but I personally I came out of Catholicism, and I felt like there were times that I was still a Muslim I was a Muslim in name, but I was still caught up in Christianity.
Sure, you're going to be. It takes a while.
Yeah, so, you know, when you said that, it kind of struck a personal chord, like, okay, you know, I ain't the only one, but yeah. But the reason I wanted you to sort of give us that breakdown, and I do hopefully want to get a chance to really talk more in depth about Imam Muhammad and your relationship with him.
Yes.
But one of the things I had heard you say in a khutbah, I think you were here last year at Al Mukmanoon, and you mentioned, and forgive me if I don't say it exactly the way you said it, and you can deliver it the way that you know you said it, was that Imam Muhammad was a living example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
I went further than that.
Okay.
I went further than that. I said he is Prophet Muhammad in the 20th and 21st century. See, first of all, look, the Christians have a simple song they sing. It is no secret what God can do. What he's done for others, he'll do for you. Now that's as simple as you can get. But that song says, if God saw the Jahiliyyah in Saudi Arabia 1,500 years ago, and he gave them a prophet, then what do you think he's going to do when he sees millions of people just drop below the level of animal existence and left there for 300 to 400 years, denied their religion, civilization, language, history, involvement in civil society, and then turned loose on society like a great big plague with no training, no money, nothing. Just one day, millions of people just saying, go on, get the hell out of here. And you think God is not going to step in and say, no. Nothing has ever taken place like that. It'd be different if they turn and loose civilized people or intelligent people or trained people or people who understood economics and how to use the monetary system. We didn't know nothing. We were just one day on the plantation plowing the mule, and the next day told go for sale with nothing. We didn't even get a sandwich, a change of clothes, a change of underwear. We were told go. So I'm saying, so why would we believe that God is not going to intervene on our behalf? I can't understand it. And I'm saying the intervention that took place, I believe, is when God breathed into the spirit of Imam Muhammad by way of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his wife Clara Muhammad. Now take a look at this. Here's Clara Muhammad believing that Master Farad Muhammad is God. Here's Elijah Muhammad believing Master Farad Muhammad is God, and they are told by the man they believe is God they're going to have a child, and that child is going to be a boy. When he's born, name him after me because he's going to be the next leader. Wait a minute now. Don't you know that's a powerful thing? You ever see, like even with homosexuals, that, you know, some of them, you know, are so, they think so much like a girl, they begin to take on girls' features and look like girls. And it's the power of the mind, the psychology of the mind, and how the mind can help develop a certain kind of spirit in a human being when you believe something, and you believe it strongly. And I'm saying Imam Muhammad was taken, Claire Muhammad was taken, Elijah Muhammad was taken, and they believed God influenced their thinking and their involvement, and God intervened. And that Elijah Muhammad was the Elijah from the Bible, and that he was the messenger of Allah. It don't make no difference whether that was true or false. What does make a difference is he believed it. He believed it to be true. And if he believed it to be true and she believed it to be true, then they went and had relationships to produce a child, thinking they have been guided by God to produce a divine child. Then the child comes and they begin to breathe this same kind of thinking into this child's mind and into this child's spirit. And the child is taken away from society and reared in a certain way and guided in a certain way. And then the child himself begins to demonstrate a certain kind of unique, deep kind of introspective kind of personality, deep thinker. And the child begins to grow and develop and grow and develop and believe in this kind of idea until he is mature. And then as he doesn't get a correction on that until he's in his adolescence, almost going into his 20s. And then he gets a straight, now he gets to review all of that while he's incarcerated, serving time for not going to the draft. And it is then he begins to study his Quran and begin to take a deeper look at the book that we held on the shelf but never opened it up to read. And I'm saying, and it is then this man began to move. And then God touched the heart of this man. It was almost like the same thing that took place in the time of the prophet, where he went up into the cave. Imam Muhammad was touched by God to deliver his people and to deliver us from the problems that we have right now. And I'm saying that I believe that he is Prophet Muhammad in our time. I believe the same spirit that was in the prophet is in him. I believe the same determination is in him. The same love for his people and for all people is in him. And because of that, God rewarded that kind of thinking, that kind of belief, that kind of sincerity, that kind of dedication, and gave him and called him. And then he began to grow and grow beyond what he imagined he could be. And I believe that we have the Christ that is returning. And I'm saying, here we are, we're running around wondering how to attract people to this religion and how to get the paper to grow. All we got to do is come out with a blazing headline saying Christ has returned. And you sell more papers than you can print on the press. And back it up. But you're too afraid to stand up and tell the world what is taking place. But we don't mind spending some of the collateral that he gave us. We constantly spend it, showing the people how smart I am. And other people have gone on to law school. And some become attorneys, some become doctors, some become judges, some become senators, some become congressmen, and all of that. And I'm not blaming those people, but I'm saying we're looking at all the progress that is being made, and we're missing the fact that we have not told the world what has taken place. For some reason, we are ashamed to tell them, or afraid to tell them, afraid that we might be laughed at, disagreed with. I don't care. I'm saying we need to stand up and tell the world the Christ has returned. The Christ is coming. Let's start the conversation. Start it, because that's what is taking place. Imam Muhammad said that Jesus Christ served the Last Supper and went to sleep. He died to this world. He said, but what about breakfast? If we have to rise in the night and break fast, right? We take a little meal in the middle of the night in the month of Ramadan. So he says, well, who serves the breakfast? Who serves the breakfast? He serves the breakfast. Imam Muhammad serves the breakfast. And what is the breakfast? The breakfast is the breaking the mystery on the truth of Christ. That's the breakfast. That's the breakfast that the world has got to know. The truth, the reality of Christ, that what has held the world in check. The misunderstanding on Jesus Christ and his mother. Oh man, look, we got so much, and I keep hearing the brothers and sisters keep teaching and teach. They like to mesmerize the people and get them honoraries and everything, and keep on going from one temple to the next. But look, let's forget all that. None of us have anything unique, other than the fact that we were blessed to be a part of this blessing that poured down from heaven. Now let's tell the world where it came from. Let's tell the world who it was. Why? Because it will start the conversation that needs to be started in America that can change America. We're looking at our young people going out shooting and killing and shooting and killing. Why? Because all you're witnessing is animal flesh. Imam Muhammad said a human being don't even begin to grow until the Spirit of God comes into him. Into that spirit that Allah breathed into him. And when I put the right amount of this and the right amount of that, and he becomes duly proportioned, he said. He said, then bow down to Allah. Bow down. So I'm saying, these are the things that I would write if I could write in the paper, but sitting up there week after week, losing sleep over what someone called me a radical Muslim. They're gonna write 2 or 3 articles on that. They're gonna write articles on these young boys from Tajikistan and all that. Here's to Tajikistan, okay? Here's to Tajikistan. That's all right. But I'm saying, after we take care of what we have to do here in Tajikistan.
But I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
How is what you're portraying not in contradiction to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, being the final messenger?
He is. There's no need. He's not the final messenger. He's not the final messenger. He's the final prophet. The messengers will continue to come. And he was Allah's last messenger. But he's not the final messenger. But he is the final prophet. But my point is not that Imam Muhammad is a prophet. I'm saying he is Prophet Muhammad in this time. Look at our prayer. Oh Allah, make Muhammad successful. Why are we still saying that?
I don't know why.
We're saying it because there was a Muhammad to come. Muhammad is not. See, we're seeing Muhammad in flesh and blood. Muhammad is in a mission. Muhammad is in a goal, and Muhammad is in what God wants for people. That's not Allah. We weren't saying a prayer for a man back then. We were saying a prayer for the mission. We were saying a prayer for the mission. And so I'm saying oh Allah, make Muhammad successful as thou just make Abraham and the fathers. We're talking about a mission that we're to look for in this day and time. And it is here. The Jews are sitting around. Everyone knows it's here but us. Why do you think they giving Oprah all that money? Oprah thinks she did something. Oprah, look, they care less about Oprah. They can make and break Oprahs all day long. Hey, Jed, we need to take one of the negras and make a millionaire out of them. Well, why you want to do that, Jed? Well, we really, if they wake up and see what's really going on, they're gonna get trillions and trillions. We'll give them that one be a millionaire, and they'd be so knocked out they won't even know that they got trillions and trillions coming. Hey, look, Oprah, all the things, all the Whitney. Why you think Allah let Whitney sing like that? Because we need to be sang to? Why Allah made Michael Jackson so talented? Because we needed that? Why he let Muhammad Ali become the talent that he is? Because we need to see a boxer? Why he let Mike... Because all of this, LeBron James, this is to wake the world up to show you there's something special going on in these genes. There's something special going on in this human being that you call Negro, that you call slave, that you call foolish and ignorant. Something special is going on. And that something special is not just that they can play basketball and they can sing and they can dance. It is that God has touched this sort of individual. That God, it was God's plan, it was God's mission, it was God's will that we would come here as slaves. Because God wanted us away from that insanity over there because he saw it falling on his head. And he pulled us away. And kept us in a position so that we could one day, when all of that falls on his butt, that then the real mission that is to be fulfilled on earth will be fulfilled by the one who God has chosen. And it is coming by way of Imam Muhammad to the ex-slave. And we're too stupid to see that this is our day. We're too stupid to see this is our day. Why? And we're going to suffer and continue to suffer because we don't have the courage to stand up and tell the world that the Christ has come. The Elijah that they've been looking for. The 10th Imam that these Muslims are looking for over in Iran. Even the Christ that is going to take the sword and swing it and chop the heads off all that, yeah, that's here. And what's the sword? The sword is the word of God. And chop the head off means get that ignorance away from them and wake these young boys and girls up to the fact that you got to become a human being. That's why they can keep killing like they're killing. Because the preachers aren't telling them nothing. We don't want to challenge the preacher. Well, when the Imam was here, you know, we couldn't do this when he was here. He didn't want us to do it in his presence. But I don't know what he told them, but I know what he told me. He told me he was the Christ. He told me I am that one. I introduced him at Florida State University. I still got the speech on tape. I got it on tape. And they wanted to challenge it. He never denied he was that. Never denied it. That was back in 1970 something. Then he said it, and I got another speech that I transcribed where he made it crystal clear. I am the one to serve. I am the Christ. I'm the one to serve that bread. Okay, he's gone now. Okay, we don't have to worry about embarrassing him. Stand up now and tell the world. We're looking at all these Christians celebrating what they guessing about. They got more spirit about a guess than we got on the real deal. They decorate their houses with lights and trees and singing da 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 dee da dee da. Joy to the world, the Lord decked the halls with. All of that is singing about us, and we standing there like this. It's about us. Let's tell the world it's about us. That's what the whole Christmas celebration is about. That's what the whole Easter celebration is about. That's what all of the celebrations. It's about us. And the wise among their people know it. That's why doors are open. This is why you see Negroes with mega churches. This is the bribe. They want to keep these Negroes dumb and stupid. They think, oh, I'm important. I'm important. I can really preach. I know one Negro in my city where I live. Look, he's a nice guy, but he can't find his way out of a paper bag in terms of religion is concerned. He doesn't know religion. But they've given him some churches big enough to set one of these stadiums here in Georgia into. That's the kind of churches he's got. With basketball courts and mega people. I'm trying to say they're doing that because they know it's our day. It's our day. And all this is a bribe to keep us from seeing what we can have if we would be wise. But if you want to take over a city, I can show you how to take over the biggest city in the world. Give me 3 people. 3 people. I'll send one to the radio station, one to the television station, and I'll send one to the newspaper. And then I'll take those 3, and I'll tell them, all of you all go and tell all of them that there's a man here already. They got bombs, they got nuclear weapons and everything, and just give up. And then I'll go out and make a speech to the world by way of the radio and tell them, give up everything. It's just too late. You got nuclear weapons. All you got to do is hijack the media, and you got them. And so we don't have media. We have one thing, newspaper, and it has laid down. They didn't have to hijack it. It just gave up. We don't see nothing in our news. You can't tell me when the last time in our newspaper you seen anything about our community. Nothing about our community. I mean, if you want to talk about international affairs, okay. You want to talk about people coming to visit, that's fine. You want to talk about news and current news, that's fine. But you have a section called Community Affairs. We've been in court since the passing of Imam Muhammad, and do you know hardly a single individual knows we're in court. Oh, and those who know we're in court don't know what the court case is about. They don't know what the court case is about because they're so busy throwing stones at the wife of Imam Muhammad. Right, last week, Wallace gets up and makes a statement. He's in headquarters. The headquarters is in Chicago. He calls himself the leader of the headquarters in Chicago. I don't want to quote. All you got to do is go and look at the first Sunday speech. Headquarters. Imam Muhammad killed that idea when he came into office. Chicago being the headquarters. And he's busy talking that talk now. With support. So all I'm saying, my dear brother, you asked why they won't give me a shot. They won't give me a shot because I'm going to tell it like it is. I don't care nothing about them. I love Kazim Ahmed. Kazim Ahmed is an excellent teacher, but he's derelict. Yahya is an excellent teacher, he is derelict. Just quote me. Shuaib is an excellent teacher, but he's derelict. Because all of them are running around re-stirring and remixing another portion of Imam's teaching and not making it and addressing it. They're highly intelligent, brilliant men with plenty to offer. But they will not stand up and be accounted for. They won't talk on the issues. When's the last time you heard them stand up and talk about the issues? Talk about the court case. Talk about what it means if we lose control over the intellectual properties of Imam Muhammad. When have you heard one of them say one thing like that? One of them. When has Kazim said it? When has Nasser said it? And I know this is on top. Go tell it to them. I'll tell it to them myself. They're derelict. Excellent speaker. I love them. I love Kazim. Excellent speaker. Excellent Arabic teacher. Nasser, the same thing. Brilliant. Shuaib, excellent. Yahya, excellent. These are giants. But when have you heard one of them stand up and take as a theme and bring it home in their masjid and let their people down there know? Hell no, they won't do it. They're scared to death. We can't make it with people like that. We can't make it with people like that. They're not qualified. They're not qualified as imams. They need to go to the church and be preachers because they don't have the courage to take what they got and stand up with courage and teach it. And I hope that you publish this so that they can hear it.
Inshallah.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Okay.